All things considered, it wasn't that bad. I'm John Renton with the Retro Review of WCW Nitro from February 5th, 2001. They slam us right into Ric Flair and Kevin Nash yelling at each other while Road Warrior Animal just basically stands there, which is essentially what Road Warrior Animal did for the entirety of his return to WCW. A very bizarre return. I do wonder if the company had continued, would he have stayed in the company and what would he have done? Because he really didn't do much of anything. I mean, it was just a very bizarre return. Him and Glacier might have, been like in a dead heat for which one had the most bizarre return to WCW. Which one do you think? Answers in the comments, please. But yeah, we have Flair saying, hey, Nash, you don't have the guts to get in here. I'm the CEO. I'm the boss. And Nash says, well, maybe we should do this one-on-one. Animal, step out of the way. Oh, you don't want to? Here. Slam into the guardrail. Beat him up. And then Flair's yelling at Animal, who apparently just, decided to stay down. He's like, I'm not getting paid enough for this. I'm just going to take a few bumps and that's it. Flair's like, Animal, Animal. And then Nash says, you're calling the shots? No, I'm calling the shots. I'm going to beat you up. And he does beat him up. And then Sanders, we cut back to Sanders catching the limo as it arrives with Jarrett, Totally Buff, and Scott Steiner saying, hey, Rick's getting beat up, but apparently we have to take the really, really long way to get there because it took them about 5 years to get out there. Maybe they took the fly teleporter and are all, mutated together and it's a really graphic situation. And man, the Fly remake was really bizarre, wasn't it? Has nothing to do with this, but somehow more interesting than this episode. Actually, this episode wasn't all that bad. It was somewhat coherent. It was kind of typical, especially with the 6-minute main event, 9 minutes with entrances. But, the idea is Nash is beating up the CEO. He says, I'm going to embarrass you and strip you naked on national television. No wonder Turner said, hey, or the Time Warner merger says, we're going to get rid of this because we don't want to see old men stripped on national television. And then the crew arrives, but Nash has Flair in a compromising position, not like that, and says, you back off or I'm going to break his neck. Hey, Miller, get out here and do something. So Miller was going to arrive through the entranceway. No. Him and Miss Jones arrived through the crowd that wasn't a very big crowd, so they didn't have to fight through that many people, maybe 5 people. And Miller makes some matches, but he says to Nash, hey, is that any way to treat your grandpa? What the hell are you doing? I'm booking the show. You don't book the show. I book the show. So, no, your turn. My turn. I push the button. Anyway, Scott Steiner is going to wrestle 3 times a night against 4 cruiserweights. And then when the cruiserweights tire him out, he'll face DDP, where all DDP has to do is hit the diamond cutter to win, or something. I'm not sure. DDP's only, the only thing that Miller said to DDP was just hit the diamond cutter. That's it. So really bizarre, just kind of like up there stipulations. And then he will defend the title against Kevin Nash, and Nash can choose a tag partner, and it can be a handicap title match. And if if Scott loses, Ric Flair is out as CEO. Okay, bit weird they're doing this. So there's going to be a screwy finish, and there was. We then cut back, and Ric Flair is being helped out of the arena, and this took 13 minutes. We then have Scott Steiner against the Young Dragons, and Noble and Courageous, a beatdown, triple recliner for the win. One hardly needs to go on about this, and then Flair plays the blame game and says to Sanders, we all should have arrived in one limo. That would have been so many men, human centipede together in one limo. And then Miller makes more matches. It's going to be Adams versus Buff, because that's what we need to see is Bryan Adams in a singles match in 2001. And that Rick is getting a shot at Shane Douglas as well for the U.S. Championship. The once prestigious U.S. Championship fought, with 2 guys fighting over it that are well past their prime. As much as I love Rick Steiner, he shouldn't have been competing for singles championships at this point. And then Brian Clark is out after Road Warrior Animal attacked him, and then Ric Flair says, hey, I can make matches for Super Brawl Revenge. So Totally Buff says, why don't we face Chronic? And if Adams has to go it alone, it's a no substitution match. So then we can get a handicap match, because WCW is handicap match crazy at this point. Shane Douglas versus Rick Steiner. Douglas had a cast on his hand and just kept using that, but it was to no avail. Steiner driver, DVD, 1, 2, 3, new champion. And then Rick Steiner would get beat by Booker T a bit later, and then Booker would end the company's run as double champion, which was a good call. And then the U.S. Championship picture got muddy. So then Flair talks to Chavo, hey, you've got an opponent that will take you to the limit. I met him while I was drinking with your dad south of the border, I believe. Something like that. Rick sounded very weird at this point. And then Dustin shows up. Flair yells at him on screen, cuts his mic, and he gets escorted out because Dustin doesn't even work it. She doesn't even go here. Anyway, DDP versus Scott Steiner. It was fine. We get a ref bump. We get an eventual diamond cutter for the win. Maybe a DQ. Hard to tell. DDP leaves to celebrate through the crowd. Then Jarrett and a returning Chris Kanyon. Where'd Kanyon been? Was he injured or they just give him a bunch of time off? I mean, because he'd been gone since, I want to say, September? So he'd been gone for a few months. But then DDP he's struggling, crawling in the back. Jarrett and Kanyon run away. Then we get Chavo against a man called El Nino, who is clearly Rey Mysterio in a really bad outfit. And he eventually beats Chavo Guerrero in a fine match. It was what it was. And then he, takes out the mask to reveal that it's Rey Mysterio, pretends to be shocked. Storm and Awesome against Palumbo and O'Hare, the current WCW Tag Team Champions. I really miss Mike Awesome. He was really good. Shame about O'Hare as well. Really, real shame about O'Hare. Decent enough match. Storm gets his eyes raked and then ends up accidentally putting on the Canadian Maple Leaf on Mike Awesome. I don't know how he got that confused. They must have really raked his goddamn eyes. But then Skipper arrives and says, "What the hell are you doing to your tag partner?" And then Storm gets sent in the Skipper outside. Shanton bomb to Awesome. 1, 2, 3. And the tag champs win. So it was what it was. Adams versus Buff Bagwell. It was a 10-minute time limit. And this match had at least a 90-second to 2-minute chin lock. Because Buff Bagwell was not that good in singles matches. And they had to find a way to stretch this shit out. And then Clark does show up, but he's not medically cleared. Animal and Lex battle with him. Well, Lex kind of just sits there to the side because he couldn't really do much of anything at that point. Animal did what he could, which wasn't much. And then the bell suddenly rings. The time's up. Luger then racks Adams, and Adams says, "Hey, why don't you face me on Thunder?" And also Scott tells Rick not to worry about it because we have Scott Steiner versus Nash and Rick Steiner. Because pretend to be shocked, they decide to have the current U.S. champion, the new U.S. champion, team with Nash. And, oh, look, it's a world title match with Ric Flair's job on the line. And Rick Steiner betrays Nash after Scott Steiner takes a jackknife. And now both Steiner brothers are singles champions, which was kind of cool. It would mean something if this wasn't WCW in its dying days. But it was what it was. It was only like a 5-minute match before it ended. And then DDP arrives and he's all groggy, but he's chasing people with a chair, and then we cut to black. That's basically it right there. So yeah, that's pretty much WCW February 2001 in a nutshell. I'm going to keep doing these until I arrive at the last Nitro. I'm thinking about doing the invasion angle, the entire invasion angle from WrestleMania 17 all the way through to Survivor Series 2001 and the following Raw. Let me know if you guys want to see that. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.